Welcome to Starting Over Podcast. I'm your host, Edward Shelton, aka Dark Logos, and this is the show where we look at the strategies, tactics, and mechanics behind the game of heroclix. Alright, today is going to functionally be a good day. We're going to look at how the game is going to shift after X-Men. And I know some of you are like, but mistakes, and truth be told, we already sort of know what states is going to be. Like, if people want a show on getting ready for states, let me know, and I will do that. But overall, we already know what's going to happen with states. And in part, I'm going to talk about that minorly when it comes to Nimrod, but it's going to be a Nimrod fest on top of people looking at their IDs that they have out now and what they're going to do about it, and so overall right now excuse me, I think there's just going to be how many teams are Nimrod and how many teams are anti-Nimrod. It's just Nimrod's just that good. So he's so good, in fact, I know I'm about to speak blasphemy to a lot of people here, but I do think he is good enough to actually be ran in standard 300-point modern. So yeah, so let's break some stuff down. So what are we going to see as impacts from the X-Men set? And I think the first impact is we're already seeing. CURs are cheap. CURs are cheap. Everything else is stupid expensive. Okay? Everything else is stupid expensive. Primarily for a couple of reasons. One, the whiz kids, buddy, pals, you really didn't give us a super ton of value, but there are some good things. I'm not gonna hate on that. There are some good things. There are just a lot of things that just don't add value. Okay? Now, I can easily sort of step back and say to myself, hey, Dark Logos, hey, Edward, sitting there in your cool, now broke down chair that used to be a lot more awesome. X-Men isn't a bad set. Everybody loves it. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man even loves this set. Not just because of nostalgia, and that is true. But when we look at the market prices, there's a couple of things that it tells me. Number one, a lot of people are buying this set. Number two, majority of people are trying to supplement their income to buy the things that are more valuable, which are the giant and colossal figures. Okay, let's be honest. With Whiz Kids also, I'm going to be honest, it's sort of pushing the envelope a bit on how many colossals are in the set. Does not help things at all, realistically. So since that is also a problem, it makes it quite clear that the value of the set is in the colossals, not so much the standard figures. Now, even within the standard figures, there are some cool things that are useful, quote unquote useful. I like Rogue as an ID. I like Wolverine, the common Wolverine, as an ID. Beast has a place in some X-Men teams once Moira McTaggart retires. I mean, come on, 25 points for a perplex wherever you want in a leadership, or a super perplex that just, doesn't work on damage. Okay, that's a +2 or -2 for anyone that shares a keyword with him. Now, Some of you might say, hot diggity dog, and great, grand, Stone Age heroclix. This beast is the perfect brilliant tactician, and I would agree. But in modern age, super sleek, hi-fi, in full living color heroclix, this beast is all right. Okay, and the fact that 2 Moira McTaggarts are just better for the fact that you have 2 leaderships sort of puts this beast on edge. Now, in the long run and the greater goal of heroclix, is he horrible? No. But if we're looking at X-Men, has X-Men progressed a lot? And I would say it's taken some steps forward. Is it B plus meta? Yeah, it's tippity toeing into that A, but it's not quite there yet. Okay, when you start looking at the standard figures. Okay, now you could say, but Dark Logos, there's the Colossus, there's Cable, there's come on, man, how can you hate on the standard size figures? And I'm like, truth be told, Sentinel. I'm not gonna lie. Like, WizKids did a good job. They came in and said, we gave you a bunch of X-Men, and we've given you a bunch of classic X-Men from classic stories. So let's flesh out some of the Sentinels. And I think mainly because of House of X and Powers of X, the whole Sentinel thing is a big deal. In particular, Nimrod. So I think that's one of the main reasons why I think this set got approved, because they knew that they were going to be doing House of X and Powers of X, and that whole mythos of X-Men was going to get redone. So try to get you hyped onto that and have a point of attachment to that. They're putting out all of the products. So if you're like, oh hey, there's a new X-Men reboot, and oh look, there's all these other X-Men products that are out. Yay! So that's the cynical marketing capitalist in me that's speaking. So yeah. And if anybody remembers, we saw the same thing in the Flash set. Like, half of the Flash villains for the first 2 seasons were actually, I think, spoiled in the Flash set. So just saying. So all right. So I mean, as I scroll down, re-looking at the set, there's a majority of the X-Men, quote unquote, are all right. They're not breaking the mold. They're not making me say, ooh, yeah, like I put these 2 on my team, and some from XSS, and some from Regenesis, and I got a scary X-Men team. I'm not really seeing that. I'm not seeing that at all. And I think that's part of the problem. I think there's a lot of B and B plus figures, but if you were going to say what are the best X-Men in the set, you're not going to be yelling Archangel. You're not yelling Professor X. This Professor X is probably the worst Professor X. One of the worst Professor X's that we've had in a long time. At least in the carded era. You can say like, oh, what about Legion, Fractured Savant? And I'm like, look, he's a super rare. And he's good. Okay? You might say Colossus. Again, he's a super rare. He's good. And that's it. Like everybody else, you're going to need some sort of how can I put it? What was it? Actually, no, I know what you need. You need that Professor X Magneto duo that makes Brotherhood X-Men and X-Men Brotherhood. That's what you need, because that's the only way that you're going to make your X-Men a lot better. Okay, so let's just be realistic about that. All right, now The chases are good. Hellfire Club is good. Brotherhood is actually rounded decently out, but it still needs some help. And so when we look at those going forward, I think you actually have some potential. Now, am I saying I can see a Alkalites team or a Brotherhood team challenging Cosmic right now? No, I can't. And the main reason is mechanically, WizKids has not given me a reason to question other mechanics that have been put out. And I'm not asking for a continual power creep, but outside of nostalgia, why am I buying this? And I think this is a serious question that WizKids needs to start answering and start thinking about from a game design perspective. And here's why. One, WizKids has somewhat screwed the pooch when it's come to balancing out the keywords to the point where I would make the argumentation that keywords either need to be for game mechanic effects only and drop the whole plus to map theme team prob mechanic, or how keywords are used needs to be completely revamped in terms of what it does and what roles they have on figures. Because the current machinations that we have for dealing with keywords is a joke. Okay? And let's sort of go in deep and see why it is a joke. All right. So here's the thing. Before the Marvel movies and all the awesome that was to be Iron Man, classic HeroClix had a problem, which was there wasn't an incentive for you to actually play a Avengers, theme team, or an Avengers team, or all X-Men, or all Shield, or anything like that. Play a Batman family team, or even you could say Gotham team if you wanted to. And people complained because the game sort of did not go back to the source material. Now, I would make the argumentation is you can play a lot of keywords from major superhero teams and do well. And in part, it was game designed by, giving those teams figures in which you can build your team around, or giving them several core options. But in reality, the whole idea from back in the day that those teams needed plus to map so that you would have some degree of advantage in tempo on your side. The equivalency in chess is playing white. That by you would give the person that's playing theme the playing white advantage. And for those people who don't know the playing white advantage, I think it was like 65% of the games in chess are won by white just by pure tempo, by making the first move alone. Like, white is bound to have more moves than black. So a black player has to be way more skilled than a white player. Okay, that's why, usually, I think it's like if you do series like best out of 5, whoever wins white has a higher chance of just winning, because in that series they're going to be white 3 times. So it's something to think about. But anyway, So we'll just call it plain white advantage, and super progressive political people. This is not about white people or black people. This is purely about using a chess analogy in heroclix. I just don't want people to try to take it there. I never had to say this stuff before. Welcome to 2019 and to 2020. So the playing white advantage with keywords by giving you initiative made sense because, for one, we didn't have a lot of special powers. Two, game design was still trying to get used to special powers because most of those special powers back then, truthfully, were overcosted. I mean, look at Red Skull from Avengers. Like, just look at it. It's, oh gosh, it's horrible. Okay, so when we look at those concerns, that sort of is gone. All right, now if we look back at one of the main advantages you were trying to give someone playing a comic book accurate, team is giving them an advantage of white. Why did you then open up that to generic? Okay, so that leads us to sort of the second point. The generic keyword bonus holds the wrong space in the game. Okay, the generic keyword bonus holds the wrong space in the game. All right, and I know I'm still gonna be unpacking X-Men, but I'm sort of am right now. All right, so let's go to the X-Men keyword, and let's go back to Beast, for example. Okay, Beast is a decent figure. He has X-Men keyword. He also has politician. He has scientist keyword. All right. If I look at game design from a game design standpoint, X-Men should give him plus to map. All right. And then that should be my bonus for having all X-Men is my plus to map. So it gives me my white initiative. Now, if I choose, there should be another bonus if I take Beast off of X-Men and then I put him on a politician theme team or a scientist theme team. So, for example, let's say he's on a scientist theme team. If he's on a scientist theme team, then what needs to happen is not plus to map. Okay, not plus the map, because you need to have that white initiative or playing white initiative needs to be worth something or needs to be a handicap given to something that's at a disadvantage. Okay, generic keywords are way broader. Okay, and I know they say like, oh, you don't have theme prop. And a lot of people would say like, oh, that matters. And that did matter when prob was a lot less populated in the game. It definitely mattered. But now prob it's like cocaine. All your money at some point in time, every dollar bill touches, every $1 bill and $5 bill at least has like a bit of cocaine that's touched. That's how prevalent it is. Okay, so because prob is a lot more prevalent, and that's just been part of game design, which I think is good, then you need to say, all right, a generic theme team can, extend first turn immunity to one figure into turn 2. So if this character is still in their starting area on turn 2, they're not going to get, destroyed or something else. I don't really want to go into like you get stat bonuses, but that was a thought as well. Like you get +1 attack unique modifier. That's it. So if you're adjacent to another character with a politician theme team or a scientist theme team, when you initiate the attack, or just being adjacent, just being adjacent, you get a unique +1 attack modifier. Thus, it makes it useful but not broken and still applies a level of tact to your design where people have to think things through and still emphasize placement on the board. Now, what does that do? Does that completely devalue low-cost figures? Yes and no. It takes away the spam effect that you can do with Friends of Humanity, that you can do with Wakanda Scientist, the researcher. I call it the researcher effect. You know, the 25-point Scarlet Witch who was mystical. All of those figures are problems. Let me rephrase that. Any character less than 25 points should not get a keyword. Period. They should not get a keyword. If they do get a keyword, the theme rules needs to say any character below 25 points does not count for theme. And I'm going to get into that for a bit. And going back with the X-Men set. But once you start reevaluating theme, then X-Men becomes better. This whole entire set becomes better. Because as it is now, generic themes are way more powerful than standard themes. And the last standard theme that we actually saw that were good were Avengers and Blackbird X-Men. Those were the last two theme teams that we actually saw were good, that weren't cosmic. And that's a huge problem. And even you could say like, oh, but Cosmic got its day. And I'm like, no, this is the same problem. This is the same exact problem that we've had since the Scientist versus Mystical era. It's the same problem. It's just a new keyword. Oh, one keyword is stacked. It has everything. So primarily people play this. And it's like, no. This should not be going down. This is something that game design has to look at. Now, I know some people will say, Dark Logos, do you really think game design should go in and try to balance keywords? That seems almost impossible. And I come back to you and I say to thee, poppycock, sir, poppycock. Because they've always balanced keywords. They've always balanced keywords. Okay, you can, I'll even give you the prime example. Legion. There are multiple stories in which Legion is part of the X-Men. Okay? Why is it that his crazy loony version doesn't have an X-Men keyword, but his title character does? And his title character doesn't have New Mutants. Okay? Because he's been both versions. They actually had like a whole storyline where like Legion made a whole world where he could feel like he was great and the X-Men needed him. Okay? That was there. And he was on the X-Men. Okay? He had some control of his powers, but I think like when he unified himself, he was just stupid or something. So there's that. We can go. You could go through tons and tons of characters, and you're just going to say like, why doesn't this character have a whole paragraph of keywords? All right. So they balance out keywords, and they make sure that certain things do not go into other categories. But it's quite clear that they haven't really taken time to understand the impacts of it. They'll say like, oh, well, I don't want this power or this figure saturating into this many keywords, or else I think that this figure will just become too popular or too dominant. We see it all the time. Okay? So there's some concern. So really, realistically, WizKids needs to reevaluate Theme Team. They really do, because going forward, they can do everything they want to try to solve the cosmic problem, but until they reevaluate what Theme Team does, it's just going to persist. It's just going to persist. Oh, look, I have stupid, dumb, strong characters. Plus, I have really, really cheap characters. And these characters also allow me to get map and momentum, and with objects that make it so that you have like 0.5% chance of beating me because I play Unimind. Da-dum-bum. All jokes aside with the Unimind thing, I know just everybody's tired of Unimind. It's the problem. And I would even argue that Unimind was the beginning of the problem. He just was. Or it just was. I don't even know if it's like a he or what. I don't even know. I don't care. So let's go back. I think you need to evaluate the set if you're looking at the impacts. How much do you need to buy now? So if you said, hey, Dark Logos, I have all my Colossals that I want, then I would just tell you, sit for 2 weeks and almost all the prices are going to crash. For a couple of reasons. One, you had the influx of stuff from Worlds. 2, I think that this is just going to be a popular set. 3, folks are going to be opening up boosters for the next few weeks while there is supply. 4, the set isn't sold out yet as of now. And 6, like I said, there's nothing real game-breaking in majority of the standard size figs. I don't see anything that's just like, yep, this is dumb. That's going to be real expensive. Like I bought a Danger Room Magneto off of eBay for like $10. Like he's not that expensive, and he's probably one of the better like lower rarity figures that you're going to get. Even within the rares, like, do you want Storm? No, the number 24 Storm isn't really worth it. She doesn't beat out Phoenix Force Storm, the Regenesis Storm, the Asgardian Storm, and sure the hell not the Wakandan Storm. Wakandan Storm has 12 attack, 3 damage, and she carries 3 people. This lightning token is crap. It's crap. Let's call it what it is. All right. So, like all in all, this whole entire affair, like you're only maybe picking up what Gambit, because we haven't had a Gambit. Oh no, we had a Gambit in Regenesis, so it's not like we haven't had a Gambit in a long time. Jubilee, like, oh wait, we had Jubilee in XSS. Well, maybe for the ID card, maybe for that. Random is sort of cool, but realistically, like, he's not a game changer, until you can probably give him some exo specs, and at that stage, he's a little too expensive. Like, Morph, like, no, like, not really. Like, again, like, you're looking at the super rares, and even then, Archangel, not that good. Professor X, not that good. Legion actually is good. Colossus actually is good. Mystique is actually good. Pyro's okay. Sauron is actually good. Spiral is actually good. Cassandra Nova is sort of... I've had to reevaluate Cassandra Nova. I initially didn't like her. I played her in my sealed. I see some potential with her. But the other thing that I realize how stupid she actually is now is that she has Sentinel keyword. So you can combine her with Trask and Trask can heal her for free. Yeah, I didn't think about that until I saw, like, I was doing some research. And I was like, oh, she actually might be better than I was giving her credit for. So your boy may have been wrong on her. So heads up. All right. So anyway, Mr. Sinister, he's not bad, but how many people are going to build, try to build serious teams around him? Not a lot. The prime Mr. Sinister, the danger room Mr. Sinister, only for your robot teams are you going to play that. He's not horrible. By the time he takes enough damage, he's probably going to be on his running shot, 11 attack, 4 damage click, and, Ralphing people in the face for 40 points. So, like I said, the majority of standard figures, they don't have a place right now where they can challenge Cosmic and do it well. Okay? And that's something I think WizKids, like I said before, has to address. Are you putting out powers so stupid and putting out combinations so stupid that everything else that you're releasing for, the next year or 6 months isn't going to compare? Or, I just think, like, primarily, following, the basic tenets of this set is aggro, this set is control, this set is defense, this set is, a really balanced mix, and then these two sets are specifically force-sealed for our conventions. I think you fix your game design problems, in particular. If WizKids thinks like this, boom, when it's time for Nationals, the set that drops for that is going to be a set that's designed around sealed. Boom, time for Worlds, this set is designed for sealed. And it's more balanced for sealed with our game design, principles in play. Boom, there you go. I think you have something. But if you're just trying to push certain mechanics to sell sets, i.e. Ultra Chase Thanos, I'm sorry, you have a huge problem. You have a huge design problem. So let's sort of keep moving on down, and let's talk about why I've sort of just been on the Sentinel hype train, and why I think that Sentinels are probably going to be hitting. They're at that A level meta right now. I don't know if they're going to approach S, but they're definitely A. And so let's sort of start at the beginning. Always begin all your stories at the beginning. That's the best thing I've learned from storytelling from Rick and Morty. All stories should start at the beginning. All right. So when our story starts at the beginning, the first thing that we notice is we have Friends of Humanity. And Friends of Humanity being 10 points is a lie, because you're never paying that for Friends of Humanity in Constructed. You are paying 5 points for Friends of Humanity. Okay? And you're running 3 to 5. Okay? 3 to 5. Why 3 to 5? Well, put it simply, most of your guys that require you to start summoning in Sentinels require 3 Friends of Humanity to be on the board. So you need to have that be in play if you get your leaderships going. You get hot with the leaderships. Okay. Next is for 15 points, I'm +3 to map, which again, for Sentinel, I don't have a problem with. For Brute, I would have a problem with. Or if they had any other keywords, I would have a problem with. Okay, so right there, this is how you're getting themed. These guys are your, for lack of better words, flora colossals. They don't hardly do crap, but when they do, oh buddy, aren't you happy? Okay. Next, with our Sentinels, we're going to have Bolivar Trask. Bolivar Trask has Stroking Mutant Hysteria trait, which again, leadership, which now you have plus actions. When Bolivar Trask uses it and succeeds, instead of the normal effect, you may generate a Friends of Humanity if he is adjacent to 3 or more Friends of Humanity. And this is one of the things you have to keep in mind. He may generate 3 Friends of Humanity. If he is adjacent to 3 or more Friends of Humanity, generate a Sentinel instead. XDPSG002 Sentinel instead. When generating either, roll for their trait to determine the starting click. Okay. So this is the trait that makes this stupid. Because now you're starting to roll in the Sentinels. And you are POG generating. You're giving up points for your POG generation, but at the same time, they also can theme prop. So yeah, like, there you go. Alright. Next, with Bolivar Trask, creator of Sentinels Initiative, support as free. Nimrod took one too many to the face. Move out Trask, walk out Trask, he can support for free. But only the target characters with either the Sentinel or Robot keyword. Okay, so boom, there you go. Alright, if you're adding in the Tri-Sentinels for Colossal Retaliation just because you feel froggy and whatnot, guess what? You now just give Bolivar Trask the 0 ring. So he protects himself and his nice followers that are the Friends of Humanity while putting up barriers for Tri-Sentinel to blow up. Or you can, use other equipment if you deem fit. Oh, I have a Prob Gem. Oh, I have the Perplex TK Gem. Oh, yay. Like, whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter. You have options, okay? All right. So next, we're functionally realizing Friends of Humanity and Trask are core. AREOUR core. There we go. My enunciation isn't on point. I haven't been doing the vocal warm-ups. I ate a pancake before I started. That was a mistake. Chocolate pancakes at 3 in the morning. That's a great decision, Edward. Okay, so you can look at Graydon Creed, stoking the mutant hysteria. He has the leadership, and he can generate Friends of Humanities. Okay, he doesn't generate Sentinels. He has spreading the mutant virus, poison. When a character takes damage from Graydon Creed's poison, give them a disease token. When Graydon Creed uses poison, roll a d6, 4 through 6. Deal 1 damage to each character with 1 or more of his disease tokens. When a character with a disease token is healed, remove all of their disease tokens. Is this good for 45 points? Hell no, it sucks. It sucks balls. Okay? Are you going to play this with Sentinel? More than likely not, unless something in the game demands that you have to. Let's just say Kobik Trader never gets fixed. And the follow-up is when they're trying to kill your Nimrod and they summon in Banshee or whatever, and the Trader Kobik can't go anywhere, then you try to go poison with Creed. Other than that, I don't think this is ever going to take off. Okay, Robert Kelly, again, not a good idea. All right, because First off, he has a betrayer mechanic. Second of all, while he can summon sentinels, he doesn't really do much for your team. He perplexes down your opponent. That's it. For 30 points. And he has sidestep and okay. But the fact that he can become a betrayer for 30 points when I can spend 5 more points and have Trask and actually protect or heal up my sentinels, I would rather have Trask. So again, you're not playing this. Alright? Alright. Now comes Bastion at 125 points. Are you going to play him? Probably, maybe. Now, I know some of you be like, hold up, wait, Dark Logos, this doesn't make sense. Why would I probably maybe play Bastion? Well, depends on your accessibility and your budget. This Bastion is probably like $5. Alright, so he has leadership, and when Bastion uses it, succeeds. He can generate the Friends of Humanity. If he's adjacent to 3, he can generate the Sentinel instead. Okay, great. Then he has Prime Sentinel Sleeper Agents. Once per turn, when an opposing bystander is KO'd, you may roll a 4 through 6, generate the same bystander in the same square the opposing bystander last occupied. These bystanders you generate modify combat values by +1 and half max 1. Now, this is nice. This is nice. It's not bad because he has robot keyword, and you can sort of work with him and make you can work him with Isaac and a few other things. But the big thing that comes down to is the only reason he's viable is if a POG meta starts dominating again, and then him and Dawnstar all of a sudden become the hotness, which is a 50-50 because the Groots are still popular. You're not popping these guys off like you want to, and then you're just going to get retowed. Just to get a steroided Walking Wood, you're going to risk getting retowed. It's not worth it. So in every other case, once Groot retires, you might find some value in your boy. But until that happens, no. So let's keep going. Cassandra Nova, like I said, Cassandra Nova could be good. There's a lot of cool things with her that I'm starting after playing her. I was like, this has some potential. But I think the biggest problem with Cassandra Nova is going to be that she doesn't really have any damage reduction. So she takes like all those punches clean to the face. So if your opponent is able to shut down her shape change and super senses, her raw numbers are not good enough. But with a Trask or 2, getting her back into the game is not a problem. So I think that is a reality for us to think about. She doesn't generate sentinels, unfortunately, which would have been sort of cool. But, whatever. Alright. Now we start getting into the good stuff. And like I said, the biggest impact that I see from this set is sentinels. The second is Colossal Retaliation off ID. But everybody and their mama's already going to be talking about that on all the other heroclix podcasts. So you're already going to hear enough of that. You're not going to hear a lot about sentinels. So there you go. Alright. So let's talk about Sentinel Squad 1 and why he's important, why this figure is important. Sentinel Squad 1 is good if you're running robot mixed with sentinels or just mainly a robot theme, or if you are running sentinels and you are trying to flip somebody like Robert Kelly and making them useful, or you're paying 10 points for Friends of Humanity and using them as the pilot. to get abilities that you really need. Now, I know some of you might say, like, hold up, wait, Dark Logos, wait, what are you talking about? All right, so Sentinel Squad 1 has the pilot ability. And so when you go back and you look at, all of their other Sentinel, keyword or characters, if we put them as pilots, we're asking ourselves this: how are they useful to us? All right. So, for example, I would not pay 5 points for Friends of Humanity. I would pay 10 points for Friends of Humanity. Okay. At that stage, if I was going to be a pilot, I was going to have it be a pilot. And I would make a choice. I would say, do I want Quake, Empower, Range Combat Expert, or Poison? That's it. I wouldn't risk Blades. Okay. So if I can establish that Range Combat Expert is going to be one of the most valuable options, I'm going to switch over and I'm going to select, give me a second, I gotta readjust. I'm going to select maybe my sidestep dial. I'm not really going to pick my running shot dial as, and counterintuitive as that may sound, because I want to be able to maximize that range combat expert. If I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, I have Quake, I really already have a charged Quake, maybe then I might want Blades. Then maybe I might want Blades. So if you think it through, and you want attack powers, and you run Friends of Humanity, if you need Perplex, or you want your Perplex to be a lot more useful, then you run Robert Kelly, and then you put Robert Kelly inside to pilot your Sentinel Squad 1. Now you just have flat Perplex that your opponent has to deal with, and that sucks a lot more. Another thing about Sentinel Squad 1 that's really important is that Sentinel Squad 1 has enhancement and empower on click 2. And by having those two powers, it's really useful when you start dealing with your major attackers, your Nimrod, your Colossal Bastion, your Standard Bastion, your Tri-Sentinels at 100, and even your Standard Sentinels that are attacking. When you start looking at the force multiplication that comes in with Sentinel Squad 1 on that sidestep dial, then you're like, oh yeah, this is actually pretty good. All right, next up is Stealth Sentinel. And Stealth Sentinel is another one of those Sentinels that you can build a team around and then tell everybody else go suck it. Okay, definitely if you have Robert Kelly, if not Robert Kelly, if you have Trask, you actually can comfortably fit 2 Trask with a Prime Stealth Sentinel build. You go like Prime Stealth Sentinel, 2 Trask, like 2 Trask, 25 points for a Standard Sentinel and a bunch of Friends of Humanity and some IDs. I think that, and I'm just doing that math off the top of my head. So 150, 25, so it's 175, 205, 240. Yeah, you add in some Friends of Humanity. And this is also another thing I think some people may underestimate with Sentinels. Because of how stupid ID cards work, Friends of Humanity just are giving you free ID cards. Just free ID cards. Oh, I played 4 Friends of Humanity. That's 20 points. That's 4 ID cards on top of the rest of my force. Oh gosh, I'm running 2 other Sentinel guys. I have access to 6 ID cards. It's awesome. It's real awesome that my Sentinel is 175 points. I can call in everything at full and wreck my opponent. Why do I have to attack when I can summon in IDs? So again, going back, Stealth Sentinel. Stealth Sentinel is probably by far one of the more useful sentinels. If you want to like come in cheap and base your entire team around somebody that can actually stay alive, you can run Stealth Sentinel at 200, run one Trask and a bunch of Friends of Humanity and a bunch of IDs, and there's very little that your opponent can do to try to cause you problems. They have to go take out Trask first, and in the meantime, you've called in maybe one backup Sentinel, or you may have even destroyed a character or two, just for the pure fact that you have the damage. So that's something for you to think about. Like, Stealth Sentinel is not bad. Stealth Sentinel is actually really good. I know some people will say, I would rather run Nimrod, and I understand that. Nimrod has a lot of utility, definitely when you're looking at Trask being a reality. Playing him at 175 is really viable. But look really closely, and think, like, if I had everything that the Stealth Sentinel is providing, do I really want to run Nimrod in all cases? And I would say the answer is no. Having two targets is good, so you don't have to hedge your bets, I think, and in a decent range. So again, Stealth Sentinel, gotta consider it. So Prime Stealth Sentinel, I like it's just too good. Like, there's a lot of things that are really good, and one of the main things I'd sort of reflect on is on the attack dial, you have 2 stop clicks that you can heal off on and potentially start saving yourself. Okay, and 2, you have poison to start dealing with that, Kobik Trader crap a bit. So there's that as well. All right, so let's go further down to one of your meat and potatoes units, just a 25-point Sentinel. In my opinion, you are 9 times out of 10 paying 33 points for this Sentinel. If you play it at 25 points, just understand that you are primarily playing it just as a body blocker, or as like additional plus to theme, or as just a general shock trooper that you don't really care about. Okay, their range is functionally decent for what they do. They're not popping fresh all the time, but for at 25 points, at 33 points is a different subject, because you know what you're getting into and when you need to have them do specific things. So when I played mine in sealed, I paid 33 points for him to keep him on perplex. And the other thing is the capture coils. Capture coils are dumb. When you just say, hey, guess what? I have plasticity, but affects all opposing characters within 3 squares and line of fire. Ooh, buddy, it shuts down a Wolverine from getting too close to some of your core characters. So I would really, really encourage you to look and study that core Sentinel, that G002 Sentinel. Because let's just say you get lucky and you roll on the Perplex, or you roll on to Running Shot Psychic Blast. That is great. And those are great follow-up, like either useful utility or follow-up attackers for your force. But you really need to sort of like dig deeper and ask some hard questions, like, is there a reason for me to be looking at the Force Blast and Range Combat Expert click? Is there a reason for me to be looking at the Sidestep Close Combat Expert click? Is there a reason for me to be looking at the Charge Super Strength click? Like there's a bunch of things that do come into play. Like I'm running Stealth Sentinel. Do I want to run the Stealth Click? And with the capture coils, plasticity but affects all opposing characters. Sorry, not plasticity. The knockout gas. Incapacitate when Sentinel uses that close. He may instead target all opposing characters within 3 squares in line of fire, regardless of adjacency. Okay, boom. Like that right there can lock down a team. Like, do I want to have 2 of those and combine it with the Stealth Sentinel to potentially lock down opponents while Stealth Sentinel is blasting them, from top dial? Like, those are little questions that you want to be mindful of that create very awesome synergy moments that I feel that are great for Sentinels. Okay. Next up, come on. All right, Nimrod. 275 Nimrod, I've heard just a lot of folks talk about running him. And then for the Pauper. And I don't blame anyone for running Nimrod at 275 for Pauper. It's a lot to get through, considering his trait. But I would just let everybody be mindful of why I am not promoting 275 Nimrod. Number one, Nimrod can be outwitted. And there's nothing in Sentinel that really stops him from being outwitted right now. Okay? So you really want to keep that in mind. Number two, his ability is not protected pulse wave. At all. And so you could just pulse wave him down. And I think if you're running a team getting ready for states, that's exactly what you do. You just pulse wave him down. And so I would make the argumentation that Nimrod is a risk. I just think that a lot of people do not see him as a risk because a lot of the cosmic stuff does not... cosmic stuff isn't even in play. A lot of the standard, hey, look at me, I'm running Medusas, doesn't really come into play because they're not running Pulse Wave. So there is that to consider. Okay, so Nimrod in a more standard fare at 175, I think is probably the better way of playing Nimrod in the long term in the meta, and here's why. You're going to take some hits. Like, let's not pretend otherwise. You're going to take some hits. The fact that you're going to more than likely have some level of backup in terms of standard Sentinels are going to help you. You're also going to have some backup in terms of Tri-Sentinels for Colossal Retaliation. So you need to understand that Nimrod's job is to sort of set up shop wherever he's going to be and then trust that the factory is going to be occurring. That the Boulevard Trask is going to... whatever his name, Boulevard Trask, is going to be master mode for him. Okay? And he's going to be getting more and more Sentinels every turn. And if he gets hurt, there's going to be a chance for him to either retreat or potentially get healed up where he's at because Trask advanced. Okay? So those are options on the table for you to think about. You're also thinking about, like I said, with Nimrod at 175, he's going to have Tri-Sentinels for backup. So now you're starting to look at other little things that you could do that can be disruptive to an opponent that is heavily depending on, let's just say, indoor maps. And it's like, all right, Tri-Sentinel starts creating a problem for that. Okay, now we're on a more outdoorish map. then you definitely want to make sure that you're packing a zero ring and maybe putting it on Trask or putting on a Friends of Humanity and then sending them out. If you have 4 Friends of Humanity, there's a lot of different things that you can do with that. Like I said, let's just say if you want to go into Sentinel Squad 1 territory, excuse me, there's bonuses with that where you can put him on the sidestep click, and now you're actually helping Nimrod do more damage. Or you could, just choose to run one of the other multitude of, like I said, Sentinels at lower points just for it to be useful. So I like Nimrod. I think Nimrod is going to help stabilize Sentinel. I think he's going to be the first thing that people are going to look at for Sentinel. I don't think that he is the end-all, be-all of Sentinel. I think that he's the first stop, and I think a lot of people are going to stop there. All right, next up is Cerebra. And Cerebra is big for X-Men, just as big for Sentinel. And I'm not going to go into X-Men because I functionally just said, like, if you're looking at playing him at X-Men, you're only really running him at 75 points. You're not looking at anything higher, in my opinion. You can look at the 200-point dial, but I really would not recommend it because you can't turn that character into a workhorse. You just can't with X-Men, and that's the problem that I see. All right, so when we start breaking down where is this character useful for Sentinels, first off, at the 75-point dial, because now we have access to Outwit if that becomes pertinent in the meta state. And I would mainly say it's an Outwit that is sort of sturdy. Okay. The next thing is that if we want to bump up, I think it's like 150, which I don't necessarily recommend because you're starting to flirt with the range of, I think, Bastion and also, Bastion and the Stealth Sentinel. Oh, wait. I want to make sure. Yep, in the Stealth Sentinel. Yep. And the Stealth Sentinel is a lot better. So I would say, like, you hit 150, you're like, no. 200, no. 300, okay, now we're talking, because now you have a lot of dial length. Your opponent has to get through. Now, at that stage, you might say, but Dark Logos, wouldn't that just make it a one-man army? And I'm like, yeah, it sort of does. But when you start talking about more classic games, you could generate a Cerebra, and you could generate a Cerebra through Master Mode. No, you can't. Take that back. You can't. You can put it on a theme team with the Master Mode, but it can't be generated. So never mind. All right. Cyclops Sentinel. My man. All right. So Cyclops Sentinels, you're running Cyclops Sentinels. You don't want more than 2. And I know some of you are like, what? That doesn't make sense. Why wouldn't I want more than 2? And the reason why you don't want more than 2 is that for what they offer, they are primarily there to zone, provide range pressure and take it off of your main attacker, while at the same time generating the POG. That's it. That's all they do. Okay? So, the whole decapitation is a relevant thing where you get to generate the POG. That's one of the main things that you're looking at. Prime Directive. At the beginning of your turn, Cyclops Sentinel may move 1 square if an opposing character with the X-Men or Brotherhood of Mutants keyword is on the map. They may move 1 additional. Okay, has improved targeting, destroys blocking, which works really well for people trying to put you on indoor maps, and also still works well with your Tri-Sentinels. Enormous optic beam, penetrating psychic blast. When Cyclops Sentinel uses it and hits after resolution, choose one effect. Choose one to affect a hit character and all opposing characters adjacent to it. Deal them each one penetrating damage, or give them each one action token, or knock them back each 6 squares. All of these options are great. Definitely when you start pairing this up with a multiple level elevation map, that knockback damage could be killer for most teams. So would I recommend playing Cyclops Sentinel? Yes. Why? Energy shield deflection, running shot, 18 base defense, 4 base damage, penetrating damage with your 4 base. That's for 50 points. You have a very cheap, very effective follow-up to let's just say a Stealth Sentinel, or to a Nimrod, or to a Bastion. Your opponent starts having to decide when they're going to get pulse waved, because you have too much pressure from the Sentinel, your base Sentinel, your Cyclops Sentinel, your 1 or 2 Tri-Sentinels in your main attacker. Okay, so and if you have somebody, like I said, like Trask, that is generating more Sentinels, it's just too much. You are the Zerg, you're playing it like the Zerg. Okay, all right. So the Sentinel head is great. I really, really want to see how someone would rule the Sentinel head in Master Mold, but I don't know. I think it still couldn't be generated, but it'd be hilarious if it could. Just to let you know, that Sentinel head, it has the dumbest special power ever. If Cyclops Sentinel is on the map, Sentinel head can't be KO'd except by a crit hit. Like, Sentinel head can't be chosen for Mastermind. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, I think it's ridiculous. Alright. Alright, so my show's going a little bit longer than I wanted to, but we're going to keep on going. Next up is Bastion. And Bastion is great for the following reasons. One, his starting point value at 100 allows you to pack in a lot more Sentinels. And he's better than his smaller version that's cheaper for a multitude of reasons. First and foremost is his first trait. It's my resolute belief that X51 is better suited for the role of Executioner, your Executioner. Mind control, but only to target friendly characters or opposing characters with the robot keyword. Friendly mind control is always stupid. Always. Okay? So now let's go back, and we are looking at Cyclops Sentinel, and now that's attacking twice. Okay? So there's a huge concern that I would say is, like, you need to really look at Bastion. Like I said, I think Nimrod is your first stop. But when you get past Nimrod and you start to realize what is out there with Sentinel, then you're like, I think I might have other options. Like I said, Stealth Sentinel or Bastion. Okay, I can easily say I'm running Stealth Sentinel, Bastion, and that's my 1-2 combo. And there's nothing that my opponent really can do about it. I have 2 targets at 6 range. I can dual target 2 Cyclops Sentinels. Or I can dual target 2 standard Sentinels. What is my opponent going to do? Oh, nothing. And if those Sentinels are buffed up, oh, shot 1, shot 2, then repeat shot 1, shot 2. Or they just back up and I reset. So Bastion at 100 points automatically starts giving us that advanced pressure where our opponents are like, all right, I have to come up, or I have to take out Bastion, or else this is just going to get bad. Because if they mess up and they knock Bastion to the sidestep 12 attack, then he's just going to more than likely hit his mind control. With Bastion at 100 points, it's a lot easier to put in, Trask. It's a lot easier to even run double Trask if you wanted to. Will that guarantee that he won't die? No. I mean, there's enough stuff out there that could pop him down to his lower clicks real quick. Call in Cyclops running shots for 6. Okay. And then it's like, he's 16 defense, impervious. Now I side blast you with Unimind. Bastion's gone. Okay, great. That is possible. I'm not going to delude myself in saying it's not. But I think, like I said, friendly mind control is stupid and it is good. Also, he has leadership. When Bastion uses it, succeeds. Instead of normal effect, you can generate a Sentinel. So the fact that you have more chances of generating Sentinels is great. So he just starts generating Sentinels. When generating Sentinels, and you roll. If an opposing character has the X-Men or Brotherhood mutant keyword, Bastion succeeds on a 4 through 6 using leadership. All right, so there's that advantage. Automated force field is what he gets on his defense clicks. With his defense special power. Impervious, barrier as free, but only to generate the markers and squares adjacent to Bastion. Those markers block line of fire drawn to characters that can use great size. He may still target through them. Now, this is a very good thing because he's able to advance on Colossals and they just can't shoot him on an outdoor map. Not only that, he is able to protect other Colossals behind him as he advances. So Bastion can be this shield figure that you can need. And then also going into Tri-Sentinels, he, just coming up, moves up, puts down barrier before the Colossal retaliation and says, yes, this is about to suck 5 more times worse than, you thought it was. So, I think right now the cost of Bastion is really a lot less than the actual value of Bastion. I think the value of Bastion is way higher. Now, could you run Bastion at 200 points? Yes. Are things a lot tighter for you to run? Yes. Are you primarily, running the base Sentinels? Or yes, and Friends of Humanity? Yes, you are. I'm not going to front. Is that a good thing? Depends on the points. If you start going over 400 points and above, I would argue run Bastion at 200. You would need to be at 1,000 points for me to justify running Bastion at 300. All right. Are there any other Sentinels? No, Red Onslaught generates a Sentinel, but he doesn't have the keyword. And I think that's it. I think that's all the Sentinels. I'm sort of just still scanning through this document. Yep, that's all the Sentinels. So, right now, I would tell everybody, take your time and go back through this set. I would really look at Sentinels because, as I sort of unpacked it, I think there are a lot of key quirks in Sentinels that make them valuable. Not only that, I think there are a lot of situations that are... I think the X-Men set has opened up the field to people functionally to say, look, I don't need to have a Colossal Retaliator on my forces keyword for me to have Colossal Retaliation, which then creates a situation where a lot more teams are better. So, like I said previously with Star Trek, if Star Trek had a Colossal Retaliator and Star Trek had a way of carrying all those characters around, then Star Trek goes from being a B tier team to being a class team or to an S class team. And sort of similar with Wakanda. Wakanda needed a Colossal Retaliator and a mass carry. Well, they have a mass carry. So now with the new figures coming out of X-Men, they can call in Retal. So I would make the argumentation that as we start to process the fact that Retal can be ID focused as much as IDs are focused on getting that non-retaliatory strike. Okay? I want us to really evaluate the game, because the game, and I know for anybody that's lasted this long, thank you very much. The game is either going to go, in my opinion, and tilt very poorly towards IDs, or it's going to tilt very poorly towards non-retaliable damage. Okay, so imagine this. Go back to my Sentinel example. My Sentinel team has 7 figures, or let's just say it has 6 figures. I am also able to generate 6 IDs, okay, and everything else that I need for the team. All right, boom. On my team, I can just make, instead of running Tri-Sentinels, okay, I'm running standard Sentinels, okay, because let's just say I wasn't fortunate enough to get Tri-Sentinels, but I was fortunate enough to get Storm Prime. Okay, so I have both of the Storm IDs. Okay, so there you go. So then I went on eBay and I bought 2 Dark Phoenixes. So I was able to put each of those onto my student Jean Grey and then my faculty Jean Grey ID. Okay, because I have those 2. Then you take it a step further, and I have 2 Iceman Colossal Retals. So I have my student Iceman, and I have my faculty Iceman. And then I have Cyclops, and then I have 2 Cyclops IDs. Okay. If things go the way that I'm thinking, what would end up happening is I would say, I don't care what you can do or what you can say. I'm going to be in position so that I can Colossal Retail you with X, Y, or Z figure. And when I do that, when I retail you with that figure, they then are going to make a standard attack as well. And once they make that standard attack, definitely in the case of like the Phoenix or whatever, or you're playing, the Rachel Summers calling in Rachel Summers, 2 of them or whatever. Like once you are doing that, then the problems occur because folks are going to be like, well, I will just shift to playing Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm only going to attack through IDs. And I'm only going to have characters that are going to be really good, or teams that are really good at shuffling in IDs or shifting, into shifting focus or anything like that. So you can't retail me or call in a retail on me. And I think that's good, and I think that's bad. I think that over the last 4 or 5 years, we've all become very proficient at getting IDs off the board. And if the game turns into Yu-Gi-Oh, like hard Yu-Gi-Oh, I think that's going to hurt the game. And I think it's up to game design to create a non-cosmic option that sort of hinders IDs other than Strange. Strange is a push in the right direction. But just making it harder for people to call them in is not enough. You need to have something that says, if a character that did not start this turn is placed on the map, -1 attack, -1 damage, or -2 attack, -2 damage. Okay? To try to force some levels of engagement. Because I would argue, like, Harry Leland is a good step towards dealing with Colossal Retail. Because I think you need to have a character. You need to have like a 4 square or even a 5 square zone of like, look, characters can't be placed in this area. And I think that gives some validity to tactics and placement more so than, look at me, the map doesn't matter. All right. And so there's the whole list of just problems. There's a whole list of just problems. And I think that when all is said and done, will the game go on? Yes. Will people enjoy this? Yes. How long can this last? I think maybe 6 months before people revolt. Full on revolt. And if I'm wrong on my predictions, then great. Maybe there's something else down the line that's going to correct, what I have said. We might see more Pauper become popular. I'm not against that. I think WizKids would have to start thinking about these formats. And I don't think they are. And in all honesty, since Pauper is not an official WizKids event, I don't think they have any obligation to. Where I personally stand is, if WizKids is going to reinforce the community, certain ideas need to have their testing period. And I know they tested some format out at Worlds. I didn't get to watch it. I was caring about trying to win some stuff. When I look at it, I hate saying I hate saying that game design is inept or game design is not on point when game design isn't aware of what the community is doing. And I don't think it's fair for game design to say, why is Medusa so OP and for Pauper? And it's like, well, look, you all asked for good, uncommons to compete with your rares and your super rares to play in high level events. And we did that. Are they all going to be that way? No. And so I think there's some things where, even with myself, that we need to tailor our expectations appropriately. I sound like Jason on that. We need to tailor our expectations appropriately, while at the same time letting sort of the community know, like, there's some ideas that are experimental. There's some ideas that we as a community are settling, and there are some ideas that need to go forward. I would argue a reevaluation of theme teams and needs to go forward. There needs to be stark differences between generic theme teams and advantages for that versus name theme teams. Like, they need to be two separate entities. Like, the overlap is bad. Give initiative to name theme teams. All of a sudden, does Cosmic suck? Power wise, no. But from an initiative wise, yes. Okay? Then you give something to generic theme teams because they still have a disadvantage against most teams that are just putting the best figures together. Okay, so what in that situation do those teams need? Okay, so those are my thoughts, and I think that's where this set sort of has unveiled a lot to me. Like, I was hoping that X-Men would be better than they were, and there are some things where I'm still hopeful for, and they're like Beast. I think Beast does have a place ish. And Rogue has a place-ish, and Wolverine definitely has a place, taking away shape change in stealth. But I overall feel like there needs to be some real questions that are going to be raised about the future of heroclix. But that's it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for listening to my set review rant that has gone over an hour, almost an hour and a half. You can follow me on Twitter at StartOverPod. It came from outer space and told me that the mutation on Gamma Zeta 5 allowed everybody to literally make Skittles from their hands. They tasted the rainbow too much and they all died from sugar overdose. It's a little sad. All right, so let's not go there. You can email me at startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. That's startingoverpodcast@gmail.com. If you wish to opine, keep it piffy, keep it interesting, keep it awesome, baby. Let me know what you think of my evaluation. Am I off? Am I a little too cynical, or maybe not cynical enough? Let me know. You can donate to the show at startingoverpodcast.blogspot.com. There's a donate button there for you to go and hit. That's it for today's show. I'd like to thank you all for listening. And remember,